Well, I've got the outer frame for the top on this 11-passenger Yellowstone Park stagecoach, but we need to keep the material in the same curvature on the top as the front and back frame. So we need to have a rib assembly that comes down through the center of this top. And when these ribs are installed, it'll not only keep the top layer curved like the front and back, but it'll also hold the headliner up in that curve as well from the inside. So our current measurement on the inside from the front and back is 91.5. If I divide this into 10 equal spaces, each of these slats are going to be 9.15 inches apart, center to center. So I need to find this placement. So since the front portion of this is at a curve, I'm going to kind of guess where I'm in line here. And the center of the first rib is going to be right there at 9 1/8. Then the next one will be, again, 9 1/8. So this will be rib number 3. And there's rib number 4. And I'm going to come back and put a mark where rib number 5 might be, but I'm going to do the same from the other end. So there's rib number 3, and rib number 4. So when I check where rib number 5 might be compared to number 5 coming from the other direction, I am just about a 1/4 inch difference. So I'm going to put that rib right in the middle. So I kind of balance that out. So these are the 2 poplar boards that I bent that's going to make my bows. I only need about 57 inches in width, and I am closer to 67, so I need to trim these down a bit. And then these are actually a little too sharp in the bend, so I'm going to relax them, which will actually extend that length out a little bit more. But I'd like to trim off the extra now. And then instead of adjusting the whole board, I'm actually going to cut these into about 3/4 inch strips and adjust them individually. Well, this is the board that had the splits in it, and I could only get 3 bows out of this one, so the rest of this is pretty much firewood. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This last one is still about 1.125 inches. But when it gets down to small pieces like this, I personally just refuse to run that through the table saw once more. I'm going to take this down with the planer because I kind of cherish my fingers. But with the 3 that we took off of the first one, that'll give us 9, and that's what we need for the top for the 11. So the main frame for our front and back has about 2¼ inches of rise, and we need to match these other bows to this one here. And if we just set one up there just the way it's bent right now, you can see we are way over bent. So I'm going to put these on my stove and warm them up and see if I can't bring this down a little closer where they need to be. Our days have been fluctuating between the 40s and 50s, so it's nice that I still have a fire going. And hopefully I don't get too far ahead of myself. I'm trying to heat these all up at once. But they hopefully will relax without a lot of problem. The greatest about a bend is right here, so I'm going to focus on that, and I'm going to use one of my main frames as my gauge. Getting pretty hot. Getting lots closer. So I'm primarily tighter on this side. That's why I'm kind of heating them a little off center and working more on this one side than the other. Then I put them back on the stove and actually bring a little more heat down on this side. Once I get them kind of pretty balanced, then I can focus a little more overall. We're getting them a lot closer. Now I'm going to heat and swap around, moving to this area in here. And so we're getting pretty hot there. I'd have to speed it up a little bit. Still a 3. Generally when I do this, I like to hold them a little closer. I'm 1 3/4 inches, and then let them cool. It helps set that grain a little closer to where I want them. So I've got 5 here. I'm going to do the other 4 like this also. I have it down to 1.5 inches. And I don't know if I can get away with stacking all 9 of them or not. You never know till you try. I think I'm going to try. And there's my 1.5 inches. I'm just going to let them cool there. See how much we gained. And instead of putting all the pressure right in the middle, kind of balance it out. Take some of the pressure off here as well. See what we get. They should all be the same anyway, huh? We've been about a half hour cooling down. Got just a little bit of warmth in them, not much. See what we ended up with here. If I let them cool a little longer or not. I'm right there at 2 1/4, maybe 2 3/8. I think I'll suck them back up and just let them get a little colder. We are really close. I think if I let them go to where they're just cold, while those bows are cooling down, I'm going to set out all my joint work where they're going to set. I have a 3/4 inch piece here that I ran through at the same setting on the planer, so there's the same width as my bows. So as I set these straight across, the opposite end is on its mark. It should give me the correct angle for my joint as well, since this is on a slight curve. And where it's going to show up the most is when it starts to curve in toward the front and the back. This way we have a straight joint from side to side. When you're using a table saw or a miter saw, when you want an accurate cut, you use a fence. Well, sometimes when you're doing a handsaw joint work, a fence is really handy. Well, in these type of joints here, when you just lay your pattern down like I did and draw a line, well, the line is naturally on the outside of the wood. So the question is, do you leave the line? Do you take half the line? How do you make that cut to where it is accurate? And this is where sometimes a fence will actually be pretty helpful. So I have another board that I've straight lined so I know it is straight. And I'm actually just going to bring it alongside when this is in the placement of my marks. I'm just going to bring this right alongside my pattern. And I'll need to do this on both sides. But I'm going to clamp that into place right there. And I want to bring this pattern right on my marks there as well. And I'm going to bring my fence right up against my pattern and clamp that into place. So now I know the placement of this fence is going to be right on the edge of where my joint needs to be. I don't have to worry about, do I split the line, do I leave the line? If I cut right along this fence, the edge here in the corner is going to be the same as the outside edge of my piece. So now I know this angle is straight across to the joint on the other side. If I just hold that up against my fence, it's going to keep me in the right angle, and I just need to go down to the depth that I have marked. Right about there. See, that's right alongside that fence. And I can do it on the other side as well, because I have my depth gauge marked on both sides. So just keeping my saw tight against that fence. You go right there. So now I can move my pattern back against that fence, and I want to hold it right there, and I'm going to take this fence and move it to this side, and this fence will actually keep it in its proper position. And to make sure it stays there, I'm going to hold it in place while I move that fence. So now I can move my pattern out of the way and make my second saw cut along this side of the fence. I just have to remove the center. Clean up my base just a little bit. And it's going to be nice and snug. And when I actually put my bows in, I can do that final fine fitting. But that's going to make us really close right there. Now where a fence is really helpful is when I'm trying to get two joints to line up and both sides are in a curve, like in the front of this frame for the top. That really helps me get the correct angle from one side to the other. Well, let's see what we got on our bows. A lot of flexibility in there. I'm at 2 3/8. I think that's what we've got in an 1/8 inch. I think that's going to be workable. We'll recheck our overall length now that we're a little flatter. 58.5. I want to be 55 ID, and then we have 3/4 of an inch on each side frame. So our OD on these bows want to be 56.5. So I'm going to take 1 inch off of both sides. And by doing this, you see we're going to drop a little bit, so I'll recheck my height in the center once I trim these ends off. $56.5. And this is going to be our very center bow. You'll notice we're a little tall here. We're out close to the edge here, but this top of the frame has to be beveled to match this bevel here, or this angle. So the bottom of this bow actually needs to be adjusted. Since the bottom of my joint here is straight, this actually needs to be straightened across here as well, which will drop this down to this measurement. So the width of my frame on the top is 3/4 of an inch. Measure that on both sides. So I want to draw a straight line from this mark to the same mark on the other side. And that's going to be the angle that I need to taper these ends so that they sit flat on the framework. Put that on that mark on both sides. And that has to be tapered off right there. And right there as well. So let's see where we are for the height of our bend here. Right at 2 1/4. Let's see how that fits. So now our bow comes flush with the inside corner, and then the top of this frame is going to get beveled off to match this curve here. And the other side's going to be right there as well. And we're flush with the frame. And kind of out of curiosity, let's see how close we are in line. We are about maybe an 1/8 inch high, just barely higher than the end frames. That's going to work. So I wanted to do that center bow first to make sure that I have my width correct. So I have my 3 inches on each side of the straight line of my top irons. And I think we're going to be right there. I think the next 1 or 2 coming out are going to be very similar, and then I'll gradually have to shorten them up a little bit as I come out toward the ends. So like any joint work, it's just a lot of fiddling and making sure everything fits. But this is a basic procedure that I'm going to do 8 more times. And this is one of those times when I have opposing joints on 2 sides like this, that using a fence to help keep my saw in line with each other really helps. And it does make for a fairly close fit. You got to fine tune any joint. That's just the way it goes. So I got 8 more to go. Appreciate you coming along. Thanks for watching.